Welcome back to the news at 10. The People's Democratic Party has its eye on getting back to the centre in 2019 following its loss at the 2015 polls. Now the party, after its National Working Committee meeting in the nation's capital today, says it remains the only true national political party equipped to uphold national character here in the country. The party also resolved after the meeting to work towards a reform programme, which it says will culminate in the summoning of a caucus meeting next week. Thereafter, a Board of Trustees and National Executive Council meeting will also be convened to approve the draft guidelines for the Congresses and the National Convention. Let's see what's happening in the world of business, and here's Adeshewa Josh.
You first. First Bank.
Good evening. Welcome to Business News. I am Adeshewa Josh. The World Economic Forum ongoing in Davos cluster, Switzerland, has been focusing on global risk with the theme Mastering Fourth Industrial Revolution. Now, the three-day summit has brought global leaders together to deliberate on the nitty-gritties of the global concerns. Well, here's Channel's business editor, Bosin Omofaye, with the details of some of the discussions. The managing director of the London-based IC Publications, Omar Ben Yedder, says the developed world of Europe, United States and Asians are focusing more on their domestic challenges at the ongoing World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Mr. Omar tells Channel's business editor Bosin Omofaye on Thursday that African leaders would have to focus on their own agenda for development.
Seeing here in Davos how people have come with certain concerns, concerns back home, and whenever someone has concerns back home, be it the Americans, be it the Europeans, then they stop looking at opportunities elsewhere. So we need to start looking at opportunities, and we are the ones who will solve our power issues. We are the ones who will drive the policy reforms in the energy sector, in agriculture, in finance to drive growth. So there are opportunities. We've got a lot of domestic resources, so to speak, and so we want to encourage intra-African investment, intra-African cooperation on a regional basis, and at a political level. Here in Davos, I don't think that there's been a strong African participation. And as I said, when people have got problems back home, Africa becomes a side issue. Whilst for us, like for yourselves, Africa is a core issue, and it's where we are. It's where it's what we love, and it's where we need to deliver on our promises. Ultimately, we can't rely on others to do it for us.
The head of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, says the bank's interventions in energy projects across the continent would be rapidly implemented to allow more universal access to power by millions of Africans. Speaking to Channels Television on Thursday in Davos, Switzerland, Dr. Adesina outlined why a fast-track approach is needed to complement increased funding to get more people out of darkness.
Well, we are actually working very hard now to finalize this new deal on Africa, deal on energy for Africa at the bank, and also the countries that we are working. We've been doing a lot of work on energy, by the way, before, but we are going to do more. We're going to do it at scale. We're going to do it together, and we're going to do it faster, because it is not acceptable. We're talking here at the World Economic Forum about the fourth industrial revolution. Whether it is first, and second, third, first, or 50th industrial revolution, the precondition is the same. Without electricity, you have nothing. You know, Africa can't compete. Africa can process and add value, can industrialize. And so what I'm really asking for is that African Development Bank, the World Bank, and all the other partners, the U.S. government, we will work with African governments to be able to leverage their own domestic resources. It takes more than our own money, let me say. This is going to take us investment of about $40 to $70 billion a year, right? But if you take a look at how much the countries are going to put in, if the countries simply increase the share of their GDP that's devoted to the energy sector from the current 0.3% to 3.4%, that will unlock $50 billion a year, just like that. So it takes a public-private effort to get it done.
As the head of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Debt Management Office of Nigeria are collaborating on the issuance of a sovereign bond to address the nation's investment needs. Both government agencies reached the agreement at a meeting in Abuja. A statement on the website of the Securities and Exchange Commission says that both agencies agreed on the urgent need to mobilize capital for the nation's revenue base as a result of the decline in the prices of crude oil and its effect on foreign exchange. The statement adds that a sovereign bond will be issued to attract significant capital from the Gulf countries and other established Islamic markets around the world. The Director Generals of both agencies, Mr. Munir Guazo, and the SEC, Mr. Abraham Mwankwo of the DMO, pledged to ensure the success of the project. Well, trading at the Nigerian equities market ended on a bullish note today as key indicators appreciated for a second straight session. Nestle, 7up and Nigerian breweries are the top three stocks that led the gainers pack. Bisi Adebayo tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Reports. The bulls kept their heads up at the Nigerian equities market as key indicators appreciated for a second straight session. The all-share index grew by 1.51% to end Thursday's session at 23,686.67. Market capitalization also climbed to 8.14 trillion naira. Nestle, 7up and Nigerian breweries were the top three price appreciators for this session. On the flip side, WAPCO, ETI and Ashaka Cement got the cold shoulder from investors. FCNB, Zenith Bank and Transco were the major contributors to market turnover. At the sound of the closing gong, investors had exchanged 476.14 million shares, valued at 3.63 billion naira in 5,398 deals. That ends the stock market reports. I am Bisi Adebayo.
Thank you, Bisi. Now let's check out closing figures from other major markets around the world. And that's Business News Tonight. The news at 10 continues in a moment.
You first. First Bank.
To the National Assembly now, where federal lawmakers continued debate on the 2016 budget today. PDP lawmakers had argued that the budget is ambitious and the government will not be able to fund it. But the APC thinks otherwise and calls it a budget of the people.
It's the second day of debate on the 6 trillion naira 2016 appropriation bill that is before the National Assembly. In the House of Representatives, unlike the debate observed on the first day, lawmakers are more passionate.
I agree with the contention that this estimate before us is a budget of hope, a budget of economic revival, the hope of the masses, the hope of the people.
A lot of people looted the fund, and some people are looting the loot. Then what are we saying? All the leaders that are ruling Nigeria, they have said they are recovering loot. Where are the loot? So if based on what we are hearing now, that over trillion money have been recovered, I think this budget too can be funded through that looting funds.
It is a litmus test for us in Nigeria that if this budget succeeds and it is fully implemented, then we can show the whole world that Nigeria can survive as a nation without depending on crude oil.
Where is the provision for the youth? You want to lay cable with 322 million to lay cable from the villa to the driver's room in Nigeria. This is monumental fraud.
In the Senate, the debate follows a similar pattern.
The capital expenditure has increased and the inflow has decreased. What it means, Mr. President, is that this budget has a serious deficiency. this budget is not the budget of change yet. I think they're still looking for how to bring in the required change.
Instead of funding Malams and Marabouts with 4 billion naira, this progressive government of the APC have decided to convert money meant for celestial and spiritual and diabolical activities into providing school uniforms and school free feeding for our sons and daughters.
The debate is set to continue on Tuesday next week, after which it is expected that the bill passes second reading and be referred to the relevant committees. Lanre Lasase, Channels Television News.
Well, the problem of malnutrition in the northeastern and northwestern parts of the country may soon be a thing of the past. And that's because the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Dangote Group and the Chairman of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are pledging $100 million to tackle the challenge in the next 5 years. At a meeting in Abuja, Alhaji Dangote explained that the partnership will involve a community-based approach, conditional cash transfers, and investment in the production of nutritious foods.
Every day, people see them in their numbers. They look sick and stunted. These, indeed, are the many faces of Nigerian children suffering from malnutrition. According to the Global Nutrition Report, Nigeria ranks second globally amongst the list of countries in the world with high rate of malnutrition. How to reduce this situation for the next 5 years is what informed the meeting between the Dangote Foundation and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
The partnership will commit the sum of $100 million to addressing malnutrition in Nigeria between now and 2020. However, partners, particularly the Dangote Foundation, are likely to spend significantly more resources on nutrition interventions in line with their unique strategies.
While malnutrition has economic cost to every nation, it also reduces its life expectancy. Founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation thinks this has to be tackled fast.
As was mentioned, not only does the lack of nutrition make children vulnerable to diseases and therefore raise the death rates very dramatically from things like diarrhea or pneumonia because the child's immune system isn't strong enough. For every child who dies, there are 4 or 5 children who survive, and yet because of malnutrition, they never develop physically and mentally.
Top government officials at the meeting gave a template of what they intend to do in checking malnutrition.
What you are doing is keen into a national agenda. At the Federal Ministry of Health, we've already been intervening in a preschool nutrition program where we have targeted over 1 million children.
So far, statistics by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture has it that 11 million children in Nigeria are stunted owing to malnutrition, while a multifaceted approach is needed to ensure that Nigerian children get good nutrition, child spacing and exclusive breastfeeding for a minimum of 6 months are some of the ways to save the nation's young population.
Still ahead on the news at 10, President Muhammadu Buhari rewards Nigeria's sportsmen, women and officials who brought honour to the country in 2015. That will be on sports. Please stay with us.